Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We will see rapidly rising cases over the next few weeks.
Indoor holiday gatherings must be small and fully vaccinated. New Year's Eve parties are cancelled. Sports tournaments are off. BC unveils new health restrictions as the COVID Omicron variant surges. Also,
probably I wouldn't be able to cross as much.
Ottawa once again requires all incoming travelers to show proof of a negative COVID test to enter Canada. And
he's quite social and protective of anybody who needed to be protected.
A CBC News investigation on intimate partner violence. Tonight, the impact on Indigenous men in Canada.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Anita is away tonight. Your holiday plans may need to be rethought again as BC faces yet another surge in COVID-19 cases driven by the Omicron variant. Health officials have announced new public health restrictions. This includes limits on indoor gatherings and capacity limits in large venues. New Year's Eve parties must be scrapped and sports tournaments postponed. There's lots to cover tonight. So the CBC's Liam Britton joins us now. Liam, first of all, what do people need to know about gatherings over the holidays?
Well, Dan, this is what we've been waiting to find out. Christmas is not entirely canceled, but we are going to see changes to many events starting Monday. Let's start with personal gatherings at home, say, or vacation or rental properties. Those will be limited to one household plus 10 people, but only if everyone present, 12 and older, is fully vaccinated. Now, venues that can hold 1,000 people or more will be down to 50% capacity. Think hockey games and concerts. All sports tournaments are canceled for both children and adults, and that's because there's been some COVID spread linked to these events. You can think of the Omicron cluster at UVic, for example. Organized New Year's Eve events are also canceled. Restaurants can stay open at full capacity, but guests have to stay at their tables, and all establishments will be required to enforce the BC vaccine card. Before, that was only for events of at least 50 people. These restrictions come into effect December 19th at midnight. That's Monday.
Here in BC, for example, we see a growing share of our cases, and we know, even if we may be a week behind some jurisdiction in Canada, we know that the Omicron variant of concern will soon be the dominant variant of concern in BC.
Liam, there are plenty of people asking why not even tighter restrictions like what other provinces have. What about that?
Well, Dr. Henry says she believes the new measures will help stop the spread of Omicron. And she says a major spike in cases is driven largely by younger people who are becoming infected at parties and other social events. She says bars and restaurants can stay open when they follow strict guidelines. The vaccine card first and foremost, but also keeping guests at tables and not mixing with other groups, as well as wearing a mask in crowded spaces.
These are the measures that I'm confident will help us to continue safely operate. Clearly, if the situation gets dramatically worse, then we'll meet again and reassess what we need to do. But I believe that if we all dig in and stay small and continue to take these measures, they've got us through before, they'll get us through again.
It's also important to note that today's announcement did not include any updates on the province's booster shot program or about making rapid tests more widely available. But we're told an update is coming. Dan?
Liam Britton, thanks very much. The new provincial guidelines have had an impact on events at Rogers Arena. Bryan Adams has now canceled his big New Year's Eve concert. Organizers billed it as the biggest New Year's Eve celebration in the city in decades. Now they say all tickets will be refunded. And the Dave Chappelle Comedy Show, which was due to take place on New Year's Day at Rogers Arena, has been rescheduled to April 23rd. With capacities at the arena and Abbotsford Centre reduced to 50% on Monday, the Canucks say it's still figuring out how this will impact ticket holders, and it's encouraged fans to hold on to their tickets. This weekend's games, there are two, are not affected. We have yet another steep climb in new COVID infections in BC. 789 more British Columbians were infected, the highest daily total since late September. And that has pushed BC's rolling average over 500. With 3 more people dying today, BC is on the brink of approaching yet another somber milestone of deaths to 2,400. And in a matter of just a day, the number of Omicron cases identified here has more than doubled, up more than to 300 now. Island Health has the highest number of infections at 145. And Vancouver Coastal Health has now overtaken all of BC's health regions with the highest number of active cases. rising more than 200 from yesterday to just under 1,228. And that health authorities identified a COVID-19 exposure at a UBC social event last weekend. The university organized a rapid antigen testing site for anyone who attended the Sauter Business School's Masters Gala on December 12th. The health authority will notify close contacts directly and will ask them to self-isolate and watch for symptoms. People in Vancouver are clamoring to get their COVID tests, causing huge lineups at testing centers. Take a look. This is the line for testing at the location at Canby and 33rd. Coastal Health is aware of the long waits, but there's currently no plans to open more testing sites. To help keep lines down, people who do not have symptoms are asked not to access testing services. Before visiting a test site, people are advised to complete the self-assessment tool to make sure they actually need a test. Ottawa is again requiring all incoming travelers to provide proof of a negative pre-arrival PCR test to enter this country, even those who have spent a short time abroad. Anna Thibodeau has more on the federal government's latest effort to curb the spread of Omicron.
The Windsor-Detroit border crossing is often used by Canadians for short jaunts to the United States. This Canadian goes to see her American boyfriend about 2 times a week.
Right now, there's no testing, so it's nice.
Since November, it's been easy to do this because as long as the trip was under 72 hours, no PCR test was needed to get back into Canada. As of December 21st, pre-arrival testing will be back in place for trips of all durations, and the test must be taken in a country other than Canada.
Not good, especially around the holidays. It's not super great, especially if you're just going for a shorter trip. Probably I wouldn't be able to cross as much, especially since I believe I can't get tested in Canada anymore. I have to get tested there, and I find that the results take a little bit longer.
If you fly back to Canada, expect a test at the airport too.
We have significantly increased the on-arrival testing.
But there are questions about the effectiveness of these measures actually detecting the virus in people entering the country after short trips.
If you went to the United States and you catch COVID-19, you catch the virus, it does take a bit of time for incubation period to occur. The test taken just before Canada won't catch everyone.
There is no perfect measure, but the combination of different measures brings us closer to perfect system.
Current health data suggests the vaccine and testing system work. Just 0.14% of fully vaxxed air travelers have tested positive so far.
So travel is not the culprit. Crossing the border is not the culprit. The federal government is doing whatever they can, and they do have jurisdiction over the borders. So what they can do is implement testing of travelers who come in.
Health officials say that layering on public health measures is vital to blunt the growth of the Omicron variant. And with more community spread, Canada's top doctor does say that there are ongoing discussions with the provinces about domestic travel too. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, by the border in White Rock, people are showing their support for the introduced PCR tests.
It's a really good idea. I think we have to take all the precautions that we can.
It was quite complicated to get it done, but we believe in it. We've all got to do what's necessary.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, what can you do, right? So, to keep everybody safe, they have to do that.
It could be pretty complicated. Maybe it'll make people not want to leave, but we'll see what happens.
In Kelowna, the transit worker vaccine mandate there has led to services being cut by 15%. Kelowna's regional transit system is facing a labor shortage as not enough workers comply with the vaccine mandate. The service cut will come into effect on January 2nd and will stay in place until further notice. So far, no routes have been eliminated. BC Transit says they are factoring in schools getting back into session next year in order to help passengers plan their trips ahead. A preview schedule is available on BC Transit's website. And while some provinces are offering booster shots to anyone over the age of 18, here in BC, some people who are eligible are still waiting their turn. And as Janella Hamilton explains, some say the government needs to speed up the booster program immediately.
I would say, in a daily way, it's like I'm checking my phone every day to see, did it come today? And so, not today, but
How soon? Elliot Brown still does not know. Despite being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2019 and being on the high priority list for dose 1 and 2, Brown has not been able to book her third dose appointment in Vancouver yet.
I mean, pretty terrifying. I mean, COVID was already really scary, especially specifically my kind of cancer. It impacted the functionality of my respiratory system long term.
A concern shared by others in BC.
We haven't had anyone for dinner for 22 months. I'm no different than anybody else. It's just I'm older and I'm more at risk because of my age.
A concern that experts say is valid.
Well, I think especially with the Omicron variant dominating the pandemic as it is, it becomes crucially important for those who have been judged already to be eligible to receive a third dose to do so as efficiently and quickly as possible.
Ontario and Saskatchewan have rolled out a plan to offer third doses to anyone over the age of 18, 3 months after their second vaccination. Conway says eligible British Columbians should be prepared to wait longer than 6 months for their third shot. And the longer people wait, the less protected they are.
Now, with Omicron, information that was published earlier this week suggests at minimum 30% reduction in vaccine efficacy compared to Delta. And it means that the third shot needs to be given sooner to restore immunity.
Conway says Omicron is 3 times more transmissible than the Delta variant and is on the rise in BC. Health Minister Adrian Dix says plans are in place to speed up and provide doses to more people as they reach the 6-month time window. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
One person has been arrested in connection with the August disappearance of a Langley school teacher. Naomi Onatera was last seen leaving her home in Langley on August 28th. Her family reported her missing the next day. Today, the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team confirms someone is in custody, and investigators are back continuing the search at her home. No charges have been laid, and investigators say more information will be released tomorrow. In recent days, we've been reporting on people murdered by their partners. CBC data journalists studied nearly 400 cases of intimate partner homicide over a 5-year period. Overwhelmingly, the victims are women, but nearly a fifth are men, many of them Indigenous. Tonight, our Wamish Taylor has the story of a father who wished he'd seen the signs in time to save his son. And a warning, this story does have some disturbing details.
He's quite social and protective of anybody who needed to be protected.
In Gitneyao, a small Indigenous village 90 minutes northeast of Terrace, BC, the values of family and clan kinships are taught from one generation to the next. As a father and clan leader, Dale Good passed on those values to his son Zachary, an outgoing young man with a love for soccer. He never imagined he would lose him to violence in Terrace.
It took a lot out of our family when this happened. I was at work in Kitimat when his sister and her husband came to my room.
On May 16, 2015, Zachary Turner Good was living in the apartment behind me after finally getting away from his abusive girlfriend. On that same day, Isabel Johnny forced her way into the apartment. We don't know exactly what happened next, but a few hours later, Zachary Turner Good died at Mills Memorial Hospital from a stab wound to the chest. He was only 25. Much of the historical experience of Indigenous life in Canada has been shaped by pain. A CBC News investigation found Indigenous men are more likely to be the victims of intimate partner homicide than men in any other ethnic group. Of the cases where we know ethnicity, 1 in 3 male victims were Indigenous. In Zachary's case, Dale knew something was wrong with Isabel as soon as he met her.
Person is cold right off the bat, and there's nothing behind the eyes.
Dale says Zachary was the kind of kid who would try to fix a broken person, and that's probably why he stayed in the relationship. He says looking back, he missed the signs. Zachary was losing weight, stopped playing soccer, and quit coming to family gatherings. He wishes now he had reached out to his son to talk about those difficult male expectations of manhood.
As men, we have to stay strong, not show emotion.
As a father, Dale has lost a son. As a community, Gittineau has lost a promising young citizen. As a clan leader within the Gittineau Nation, Dale hopes his family's story can help other young Indigenous men learn to walk away from violent relationships, to reach out for help. 6 years later, he still talks to Zachary on Facebook.
So my messages to him is that I'm sorry, I love you, and I wish you were here. It's just...
Wamish Hamilton, CBC News, Gittineau, BC.
Meteorologist and seismologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. Joe, we're going to ask you to wear both of those hats today. Bit of an active day out there.
A bit of an active day, you can say indeed, Dan. Yes, many people being woken up to some shaking early this morning, about 4:41 a.m. I'll take you through what's happening under the ground in a moment. But first, someone is quickly moving in overhead. Let me get you to the satellite and radar. Our next impending low pressure system already spreading light snow across the south coast. It's been snowing for a couple of hours in places like Port Alberni and Nanaimo. We're seeing that light snow across Metro Vancouver. It's switching back and forth between snow and rain, with temperatures just above the freezing mark. But this is also just the beginning of what is going to be a very active next 24 hours. Look at the warnings in place across the province, extending all the way up to the Prince George region, through Caribou, into the Kootenays, Columbia, and Highway, the Canada, looking to get 45 centimeters as we head into the Rockies. For us, the sea to sky, going to see some of the highest amounts at 35 centimeters, and then here in Metro Vancouver, 5 to 10 centimeters, down to about 200 meters, and a risk of freezing rain out towards the Fraser Valley. So a time that all out for you coming up. But yeah, let's just zoom in on that earthquake this morning, right under Galiano Island. Lots of reports of shaking, Dan. Not expected to be a precursor for anything. This is a crustal earthquake. We do see a lot of them. Always a good reminder of where we live, though.
Indeed. Interesting way to wake up this morning. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, you're welcome.
TNT Supermarket is expanding to another province. The grocery store, which specializes in Asian products, is planning on opening its first location in Quebec. As Jessica Chung explains, it's a big step for the family-owned business that started right here in Metro Vancouver.
We would have never dreamt the business would be at the size that it is today.
And Tina Lee, the CEO of TNT Supermarket, says it started off small.
It was started by my mother, Cindy Lee, who is still a resident of Vancouver. And then it was a big deal to go to Alberta. And then it was an even bigger deal to go to Toronto. And now finally we're going into Montreal. So we are so excited about it.
The company announced plans to expand to yet another province and another language, with a message from what will be the third generation of Lee women involved in the company.
Salut, je m'appelle Kira et j'ai 9 ans.
My daughter Kira, who is learning French, did our video announcement for our store in Montreal, and Grandma and Grandpa totally are loving it.
TNT started in Richmond and Burnaby almost 3 decades ago and has grown into the largest Asian supermarket chain in the country. It's a staple amongst those who are new to Canada and also for shoppers looking to get a diverse variety of food.
You walk down the aisle of a TNT and stuff literally jumps off the shelf at you because you get this moment of nostalgia when you see a brand from your childhood.
I mean, food is like what brings a lot of us together. And yeah, to be able to buy stuff that you can't find anywhere else is, it's important to me at least.
Especially because there's so many immigrants coming to the country, and as a person of color, it's very important just to be able to experience home in a new, foreign land.
And the company is hoping to bring that to Montreal.
We've seen a strong number of immigrants coming to Quebec, about 400,000, and many of them are deciding to move to the Montreal, greater Montreal area. So from that standpoint, a TNT store makes a lot of sense.
The new store is slated to open within the next 2 years. Jessica Chung, CBC News, Vancouver.
All week long, CBC has been looking to find the best decorated street in Metro Vancouver. We've shown you a few of the contenders from East Van to West Point Grey to Langley. And now we have a winner. Our Justin McElroy has been helping lead the charge on this Christmas contest. What a surprise. Justin, along with your esteemed panel, who won and why?
You know, it's called on a map 55A Street in Ladner, but to locals at this time of year, it's named Candy Cane Lane. And it was the winner of our very comprehensive contest for the best Christmas street in Metro Vancouver. We got dozens of nominations over the past couple weeks from around the region, but our panel of judges picked a short list of 5, scored them all, and went, well, just look at the pictures. Candy Cane Lane is delightful. Every house on the block is in it. It's inventive displays, and we were just bowled over both by the brightness, but also the community feel. Part of the reason why this morning we went over to them and gave a little token of our appreciation for what they give to the entire community at this time of year.
And it's important to be bowled over, as we know. One of the displays in the running became a bit of a story itself. What about that?
Yeah, one of the nominations we got was Drummond Street in West Point Grey, and it was a delightful display. 100 or so inflatable displays outside of the home. But in fact, that block is just one entire house because of how big mansions in West Point Grey are. And then when we searched it, there was no one home. It was just a caretaker. The owners are overseas. We then searched for who the owners were, and it was a numbered company, only in Vancouver.
Justin McElroy, well done. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
BC may not be battening down the COVID hatches just yet, but Ontario and Quebec sure are. The new rules and the reaction as Omicron surges in eastern Canada.
Gym 2 has given me more benefit than a full week's worth of triathlon training and work. It allows me to use the muscle control that I still have and increase that a little bit. Most of my paralysis is in the lower extremities, so doing a little bit of CrossFit helps me with the strength in my upper body.
It's got great mental benefits as well as the physical.
And I feel like it does. I feel like it gives me something to focus on. It gives me an outlet that I wouldn't have otherwise.
So I'd love people just to, disabled people just to kind of get more into functional fitness as a part of their everyday lives.
The national curve is getting steeper, with daily new COVID cases up across Canada nearly 60% in just the past week. Thomas Douglas shows us the response across the country is a rapid ramp-up of restrictions. And for the second holiday season of this pandemic, familiar warnings.
For those who still feel the pull of a night out, restrictions are growing across the country.
Trying to get out at least a few more days and go to restaurants, but frustrating.
Ontario, the latest province to reintroduce a 50% capacity limit on pubs and restaurants as a way to stem the spread of Omicron. Premier Doug Ford changing course 2 days after refusing to impose those measures.
The decision to limit people's ability to gather, especially during holidays, is an extremely difficult one to make.
The province is reporting more than 3,000 new infections. That's triple the daily tally from 10 days ago. The explosive growth here providing a glimpse for others of what's to come.
The road ahead of us over the next few weeks is going to be very rough.
From coast to coast,
it's absolutely frustrating to be here again.
The same warnings.
This is, of course, not where we want to be.
BC is cutting crowd sizes by half in big arenas and concert halls and calling for New Year's Eve parties to be canceled. While for the holidays in Manitoba, families will only be allowed to welcome 10 vaccinated guests, even fewer if anyone is not vaccinated.
The speed, but also the amplitude of difference between where we were a week or two ago here and where we are now, it's shocking.
Quebecers are again lining up for drive-through PCR tests as the province sets a new record for case counts in a single day. This Montreal Children's Hospital announced a baby, born healthy and not even 2 months old, has died after falling ill with COVID. A heart-wrenching reminder of an unpredictable threat.
It's not just the case numbers that have gone up, but we have seen an increase in the hospitalizations as well, and that's really what's most concerning.
Kingston, Ontario is already facing a crisis, with critical care beds in hospital nearing capacity, and the area reporting the highest case rates ever seen in the country. Omicron is bound to only make things worse.
We are anticipating and wondering when we'll start to potentially see those cases through our ICU.
Air ambulances are being called in to move patients to other regions for care, while hospital staff elsewhere fear.
It's very concerning, and people and we get worried about what there is to come.
Thomas Douglas reporting tonight from Toronto. South of the border, the U.S. government is warning its citizens about the impacts of Omicron. Right now, the Delta variant is driving the surge of cases there. And as Chris Reyes explains, they're worried the coming weeks could bring a perfect storm of infection.
At hospitals across the U.S., a familiar cry.
It feels like we have been clawing through the mud, trying to get ourselves out of this impossibly deep hole.
In cities, too, a familiar sight. Long lines are back for COVID tests. This one in Miami at a drive-thru, and this in New York City. Public health officials across the country blame the added strain on a still surging Delta variant and a highly contagious Omicron on the rise.
Although Delta continues to circulate widely in the United States, Omicron is increasing rapidly.
We're really just about to experience a viral blizzard. In the next 3 to 8 weeks, we're going to see millions of Americans are going to be infected with this virus.
In Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine has called in the National Guard to help at hospitals already at their breaking point.
Our high COVID hospital count is being driven primarily by the unvaccinated.
38 U.S. states have now reported Omicron cases. New York City's health advisor tweeted, "We've never seen this before in NYC. Test positivity doubling in 3 days." The worrying numbers prompted New York's mayor to make more tests available.
We will be expanding hours and capacity at many of our existing sites.
Friday's White House COVID-19 briefing had one message: get vaccinated and boosted.
We've seen cases of Omicron among those who are both vaccinated and boosted, and we believe these cases are milder or asymptomatic because of vaccine protection.
The U.S. is currently giving out 1 million boosters a day, but more are readily available.
For unvaccinated, we are looking at a winter of severe illness and death.
A grim forecast for another holiday season, 2 years and counting. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
For the third straight day, the United Kingdom has broken a record for the number of new COVID-19 cases. More than 93,000 were recorded today, the highest daily count since the start of the pandemic. Those numbers are causing concern among European countries and scientists who are calling for tighter restrictions. But as Farah Morali reports, Prime Minister Boris Johnson insists his government will not impose a lockdown before Christmas.
Outside a central London pharmacy, people line up for their booster shot. Many here, like Kim Williams, have been anxiously watching COVID cases surge.
I'm concerned that I don't want to get it myself and I don't want to give it to anyone else. And I think it's really important. It's a scary time. It's a very scary time.
This small pharmacy has been overwhelmed by demand for third doses.
It's pretty full on. You're on your feet all day for nearly 12 hours sometimes, but it's worth it.
Lineups for boosters are a familiar sight in London as daily records continue to be shattered for infections.
On the streets of London, things feel a little quieter than usual for a Friday before Christmas, but in some ways, things feel pretty normal too. Restaurants and bars are fully open. You don't need proof of vaccination or even a mask to get in.
The government has been pushing boosters as the best way to fight Omicron, not a lockdown.
We're not closing things, but what we are saying is people should be cautious and they should think about their activities.
It's a complete failure of pandemic policy that has cost lives.
But this epidemiologist says a lockdown is the only way to ensure hospitals aren't overwhelmed.
Even if we act today, hospitalizations will keep rising for the next 2 weeks. If we act tomorrow, then, we're near another doubling. So we really don't have time here. In fact, we should have acted 2 weeks ago.
The variant is causing travel chaos too. Some countries are moving to limit travel from the UK, prompting a rush for many to leave early. Germany is considering new quarantine measures. And as of tonight, France will greatly limit who can travel there from the UK.
It's a bit too much,
Laurent Masse bumped up his holiday trip to get out before the rules tightened.
Some people go to see family, and some people are restrained with business, with work. And I think in this time of the year, everyone should be with his family,
For a second year in a row, Christmas hangs in the balance of a rapidly spreading variant. Farah Morali, CBC News, London.
The NFL is the latest pro sports league to change its schedule because of COVID. For the first time this season, it is delaying games while the virus has already sidelined players, even whole teams in the NHL. Cameron McIntosh shows us how things are rapidly getting worse.
Ready? Oh, yeah! Still game on in Winnipeg in front of a capacity crowd, at least tonight. Fans heading to watch the Jets and the Capitals. After this weekend, crowds here will have to go down to 50%.
We're all double vaccinated there, so I'm not worried about it. We all got our masks. We're good.
It's a possibility that they might not be playing or limit their capacity altogether, like we're nobody. But I don't know, we'll see.
Last night, new Quebec health orders just before puck drop forced the Montreal Canadiens to play in an empty rink.
Still after the puck.
While the Carolina Hurricanes, with several players testing positive, could entice a full team.
It's unprecedented times we're in, right? Like, it does show where you're at as an organization because you're relying on so many people now that you would never really consider, 6, 7 guys down the list.
The Calgary Flames are off the ice until after Christmas. 32 players and staff are positive. In all, about 80 NHL players are in COVID protocol, including some big names. Leafs captain John Tavares and Edmonton's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. More than a dozen games have already been postponed, with calls from some players to just pause the season.
We all hope that we'd be out of it.
Kevin Cheveldayoff is GM of the Winnipeg Jets.
It's scary right now to pick up the phone and take a look at, and see what's happening.
For the Winnipeg Jets. Next week, the NHL will stop for a few days over Christmas, but not long enough to clear this up. Decisions to reduce crowd sizes don't go far enough, say this epidemiologist.
Even 10,000 people in an arena is still dangerous, and I think that anybody who thinks that this is being overplayed is hasn't been paying attention for the last 20 months.
Now, in a deal with the players, each game the NHL postpones makes its participation in the Olympics less likely. Time the league would rather use to make up games if the virus lets it. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
If you're feeling anxious about Omicron, you are not alone, rest assured. And there is help out there. We're going to speak to a psychologist on how to cope and some strategies in keeping that anxiety at bay. Stick around.
To take the pulse of the country, find out what people are talking about just 8 days before Christmas. Who do you ask? Well, that's what we thought too, Santa Claus, and the people who are trying to bend Santa's ear.
What do you want for Christmas?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what I want. I want clothes, jewelry, Barbie dolls, games for my Game Boy.
Oh dear. There we go. Here we are at the Regent Mall in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Everything's going well, but we haven't got any snow yet. Dear, she's raining again today. Everything's going all right. The boys are looking for the regular toys. Lots of Nintendos, and the girls are looking for Barbies. Oh dear, the one thing is the girls are also looking for little trucks, and the boys are looking for dolls also. And there's always a little one or two looking for their 2 front teeth, which got knocked out this year. Everything's going fine. So everybody have a good Christmas, and I'll see you around Christmas Eve, okay? There we go.
What I want for Christmas is to pass my swimming, world peace. I want some most ski equipment. I would like a new jacket.
Okay, and what is it that you wanted for Christmas?
I wanted a sled what has a ski in front and 2 skis in the back.
Oh, would that be a GT racer?
Yeah.
Well, I think we can do something about that, okay? You make sure you leave cookies and milk for Santa now.
Oh, and can I leave a carrot just for Rudolph, too?
Well, you may just do that, okay? Great. Bye-bye now. Merry Christmas.
And, one a doll and stuffed animals.
Hi, this is Santa Claus from Richmond Centre Mall, Richmond, British Columbia. The children here are just terrific this year. Instead of asking just for toys for themselves, they've been asking for donations to various funds for the homeless, for the needy, and so on. I just can't believe it. Instead of toys for themselves, they've even asked Santa what he would like as a gift, and they've just amazed me.
And I like a big old bed.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight for you on CBC Vancouver News.
As men, we have to stay strong, not show emotion.
A CBC News investigation has found Indigenous men are more likely to be the victims of intimate partner homicide than men in any other ethnic group. A father north of Terrace wishes he'd seen the signs in time to have his own son saved. Zachary Turner Good was killed in May of 2015. His ex-girlfriend was charged and convicted of manslaughter. Police have arrested one person in connection with the summer disappearance of a Langley school teacher. Naomi Onatera was last seen leaving her home in late August. Her family reported her missing the next day. Homicide investigators are now back at her home.
Here in BC, for example, we see a growing share of our cases, and we know, even if we may be a week behind some jurisdictions in Canada, we know that, that the Omicron variant of concern will soon be the dominant variant of concern in BC.
Scaled down gatherings, no New Year's Eve parties, and postponed sports tournaments. Just some of the new restrictions coming to BC on Monday as the government tries to rein in Omicron. Indoor holiday get-togethers must be limited to household members only, plus 10 guests, and everyone 12 and older must be vaccinated. Larger venues can only open at half capacity, and restaurant diners must stay at their own tables. Already the measures have led to postponed concerts, shows, and other celebrations. Anxieties are running high for a lot of people in BC as the provincial government imposes more restrictions in light of the Omicron variant. And it's just ahead of the holidays, a season where many people devote to rest and spending time with loved ones. For more on how to cope with the COVID holiday blues and whatever else you're dealing with, we're going to speak with Fraser Health's head of mental health and psychiatry, Dr. Anson Koo. Doctor, many people may have to spend the holidays apart from their loved ones for the second year. You sense a lot of hopelessness. People are fed up. What are you hearing from patients as well as colleagues?
You know, this has been really tough. I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say there is significant sadness and some degree of demoralization. People stay professional and they're doing their jobs to the best of their ability, but people have been so affected. I know many people who've lost loved ones, not necessarily to COVID. I've had colleagues really dreading the holidays this year because of how things have changed, and just this feeling that people's spirits are just feeling are different from years past. You know, and I think it's going to be really important this year that we be realistic about what the holidays will look like. They don't have to be perfect. Sharing pictures, emails, videos, doing Zoom calls, that's going to be part of our reality again this year. We're not going to have large gatherings, clearly. And, you know, I think accepting that life changes and there's a lot that's been imposed on us. It's normal to feel sadness and grief about the things we've lost, about people we've lost, and it's okay to express your feelings. You don't have to force yourself to feel a certain way just because it's the holidays. You know, and I think people are realizing that. I'm finding people are a lot more open about the way they're feeling and expressing things that I think people in the past have tried not to, you know, trying to be stoic and trying to be professional. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Beyond the I guess the people perhaps giving themselves permission to feel those feelings, and maybe they're leaning too much on stoicism, what are some coping mechanisms that you recommend for people, you know, at home that they can practically take on?
Well, you know, I think one thing that I've heard from a number of colleagues and friends is there is the usual stress of holiday gatherings. I mean, it's a joyful time, but sometimes it accentuates family differences. You know, I think this year of all years, it's a time to accept family members and friends as they are, even if they don't live up to all of our expectations or the hope for perfection that we have for them. I think people also have to really be more willing than ever to say no, because even though people are under stress, they're really feeling that desire to meet other people's expectations, to attend, you know, gatherings, because I know it's going to be another hard Christmas and holiday season for all of us.
And Dr. Koo, lastly, if somebody is perhaps feeling that they need more professional help, what practically can they do? What do you suggest?
You know, well, first of all, I think don't abandon healthy habits. And so I think that the way we're living and taking care of ourselves is a real key to staying well mentally and physically, obviously. So diet, sleep, exercise, deep breathing, mindfulness, whatever it is that helps us actually to unwind and to relax and de-stress from the pressures of the day. There's been a lot of increase in alcohol and tobacco use during the pandemic. And so really moderating and minimizing the use of drugs and alcohol, I think is going to be critical. You know, taking a breather, you know, setting aside time for ourselves. And I think also, we also have to realize that despite our best efforts, we may find ourselves feeling persistently sad. We may find ourselves feeling hopeless, even having thoughts about hurting ourselves, not wanting to live, or being plagued by physical symptoms or physical pains. I think that's when we might need to look at some professional help. Seeing your doctor is always a good first step. If for some reason you're not able to see your doctor, we have crisis lines throughout our province. The crisis line in Fraser Health is the busiest in the province. They field close to 60,000 calls a year. They're available 24/7. You could find all that information online as to contacts. Every health authority in the province has a contact for a crisis line, and they're a really good entry point for helping someone sort of understand what you're going through and get connection to other services that are available in your health authority. And so those are some tips I would have. Don't hesitate. Really have a low threshold for getting medical or professional help.
Right. Dr. Anson Koo, we appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
At 6:45, a live look at Cypress Mountain. Look! The snow's coming down, people enjoying some night skiing and boarding. It's a good way to relax. Snow falling there, obviously, and possibly some snow by the ocean as well. We saw it earlier today. Johanna will break down the weekend forecast, BC-wide, after this. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. Joe, we have to talk about when the flakes started falling by the dozens to hundreds today across Metro Vancouver. Everyone went outside, didn't believe it, saw it, and then thought, how can I get out of work early? Classic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think there was some hopes that that was the beginning of this snow event and that it would just continue nonstop. Now, Dan, I don't use this word very often in my forecast. In fact, this may be one of 3 times we've ever used it.
Note the time.
Surprise afternoon snow. Yeah, just a light skiff across the region with a very isolated band that didn't really show up in the models, but it was sort of magical to see the flakes fly. All right, this one is much better forecasted. Take a look at the system we're tracking out through the overnight. Storm that will be bringing heavy snow above sort of 300 meters. So keep your eye on the pink. That's the rain snow line. Taking you through the overnight. Here's midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. That's our best chance of seeing accumulating snow across Metro Vancouver. Around 3 a.m., that's when we get warm air moving in. That's also when we've got a shot of freezing rain out in the Fraser Valley as that snow changes over to rain. So heads up, roads could be slippery Saturday morning. By Saturday mid-morning, this is all going to be a rain event, I'm afraid, for Metro Vancouver. Lots of snow for the mountain passes. Clearing out quite quickly Saturday evening. I think we've got a nice looking Sunday, and then the Arctic air descends. So again, the darker blues, those are the higher snowfall totals. Definitely looking at much higher amounts for our mountains and for the interior. Watch the big picture play out. All that purple is snow pushing across to the valleys, 5 to 10 centimeters for Kelowna, and then much bigger snowfall for the Rockies, 50 plus centimeters in some cases, and cold temperatures really sticking around. Speaking of cold temperatures, though, I want to show you the big picture. The Arctic air mass is coming Sunday into Monday for most of the country. And watch they take you through Wednesday, Thursday. Here is Christmas Eve, and that Arctic air mass extends almost coast to coast. I think if there was ever a day to see a lot of Christmas and winter icons, it would be today. So I put them all on. And most of Canada, interestingly, has a pretty good shot at a white Christmas, including us in Metro Vancouver, one of our better shots yet. It's cold and mainly clear Sunday through Tuesday. Wednesday is going to be the game changer, and whatever we get, we'll stick around. So I'm saying there's a chance.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
The Kiss Cam is a sports staple, and well, for some it might be a wee bit embarrassing. For one Newfoundland couple, it was the chance to show the world their love. A great big smooch after this.
This was your Disney America, second from Illusory Electric Park.
We've set a SMART goal this year, which is improving the students' oral French. We're actually recording the data, they're self-evaluating about how much spoken French they're doing, and we want to make sure that that will improve over the course of the semester. There's accountability with the teachers, there's accountability with the students, is we want to increase students' level of spoken French. That is the number one thing they can do in order to improve their French, is to speak it. And it's something that immersion teachers have always struggled with, is not all of us, sometimes, depends on the group, having the students speak more French in class.
Teachers in Salisbury are trying to rethink teaching French as a second language. It's one of 13 Anglophone schools and early learning centers with a pilot project to improve conversation skills. The push by the province follows concerns over the success of graduates of immersion and intensive French programs. Less than half of New Brunswick's high school graduates are able to speak French at a conversational level. And for those enrolled in French immersion programs, most students graduate below the target of advanced level.
Immersion has definitely evolved. I think we are getting more and more training. When I first started teaching, I was hired because I spoke French. In the last couple of years, we've had training in both teaching French immersion and teaching French immersion in the content area, so that's been really good. I think students who do some French outside of what they're getting in school are definitely more successful. What we are able to do in school has gotten better with the amount of minutes that have gone up, but those that look for opportunities outside of the school are definitely more successful.
Only 10% of more than 1,600 students who entered early immersion in 2005 achieved advanced proficiency by the end of grade 12 in 2017. 3/4 of those students, however, left French immersion before graduating. Out of those who stuck with it until grade 12, 40% had reached the advanced level or higher. Once students reach high school, fewer and fewer classes are offered in French. Some take as little as a single course in a semester. That's something students say they'd like to see changed.
Yes, I have. It's always been something, a dream of mine has always been to be bilingual, but a lawyer has been within the recent last 2 or 3 years, only because I have a very strong opinion and I like arguing my point. I watched my mom when I was growing up do so good at her job, and being bilingual helped her. All of her friends all speak both languages and they succeed in life. I speak a lot more French when I'm not in school because a lot of students, they try to avoid it because a lot of students, their parents force them into the program. But I think that actually quite a few students enjoy the program. They get so many opportunities inside the school.
At a recent professional minor league hockey game, 2 women got the chance to show their fellow fans their love for each other. The couple tells us why that moment meant so much to them.
We are really, really big hockey fans.
Robin is my first love. Hockey's my second.
We've had season tickets now for years and years.
AHL when it was the Winnipeg Jets farm team, and then the Montreal, and then now the Growlers.
The Kiss Cam is when they put the camera on 2 people and it's on the Jumbotron. A lot of people don't like it. They find it really embarrassing. But for us, I've always wanted to be up there.
It was important. You know, because of who we are, we're same sex.
I'd hold her hand and I'd say, the Kiss Cam is on, and she'd whisper, Robin, they're not going to put us on that. And then my heart would sink because I just thought it wasn't fair that everybody else could get on there and we couldn't. So I kind of felt really sad.
We just never thought we'd ever get the chance to experience it, even though deep down we wished we would. I didn't think I'd live long enough to see it.
We were watching the game and they blow the whistle and the crew comes out to clean the ice. So I was looking up at the Jumbotron. I said, oh my God, that's us. We're up on the Jumbotron. And then I noticed all the hearts going up, and then on the bottom it said Kiss Cam. So I looked at Jan, I said, Jan, we're on the Jumbotron. It's the Kiss Cam. So then obviously I leaned over and gave her a kiss.
I wasn't sure if we should or not because I was thinking it was a mistake. But I was very emotional. Like, I do remember filling up with tears, and we gave each other a kiss, and then we jumped up and down like, oh my God, thank you, and we were waving to the camera.
For the future, I'm hoping that it's normal for everybody else like us to feel normal and not be excluded. You know, hockey is for everyone.
Love is love.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch our newscast on CBC Gem, the free app. It's also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is tonight at 11 o'clock with Zara Premji right after the National. We're going to leave you with more of the winning lights of Ladner, Candy Cane Lane, in all its festive glory. Enjoy, good night, please stay safe.